Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back. Right.
Here we are, second interview of the second day in Star Texas Tattoo Art Revival.
And extravaganza.
And extravaganza. They should add that. We're here with Zulu, easily the best dressed tattooer.
Always. Well, so impressed. Always. We feel really dressed down. I was like,
oh, you guys look great.
Hands down, you look great. But we've seen you in many conventions, and you're always impeccably dressed.
Well, it feels good.
It feels good. That's what I'm saying.
You know, the one thing that stands out to me is your posture when you tattoo is
definitely
unrivaled. I think you have we're all like slobs, we're all slunched over. You're like perfectly neutral spine,
right?
Arms extended.
You guys are a lot younger than me, so I gotta watch it.
That's what I was about to say.
I mean, is it? It's a conscious decision. Is it a struggle to tattoo like that?
It is. I have to constantly tell myself to sit up straight because over the years that'll catch up with you.
Right. Yeah.
I know a handful of tattooers that do that. Most everyone I know is all slunched over, or slouched over. But but people who've been doing it a long time, a lot of times they'll find that's the one thing that kind of saves them. I was listening to Derb Morrison did a talk not long ago, and he talked about how he has some permanent nerve damage from leaning forward and wearing a belt.
Yeah.
Like through his legs, for tattooing for like 20 years that way. And so it's.
Yep.
I've definitely heard of people, especially just wearing wallets too long and having the same problem, like their backs and stuff being tweaked. But definitely posture is an important thing. How you can keep up with the work over years and years and years, it really is up to how much you can put into it. And that if you're not conscious of that, your hand strength, your back strength, your other things. So how do you
posture is very important,
right?
Particularly because when we tattoo, you have to leave one foot loose,
right?
Because you're working the pedal.
Yeah.
So usually all your weight is usually on just one part of your body instead of your feet perfectly flat on the ground. So you're already compromised.
Yeah.
So you have to really be aware of all of that.
Yeah. And that's something that a young tattooer would never consider for a second, I think.
How long have you been tattooing, by the way?
25 years.
25 years.
5 years. Yeah. And you're out of Austin, right?
I'm out of Austin now. I was in Los Angeles for 23 years, for 25. But we just sold our Los Angeles location, so now we're just in Austin.
Okay. What brought that move on?
Well, it was just time to move and time to buy a house, and that costs too much in LA.
Yeah. Well, we've been seeing, especially the Austin community up and coming.
Yeah, you guys are sneaking up on those high prices.
Beautiful. Yeah.
We're from Memphis, and it's way cheaper in Memphis than it is in Austin, and then of course LA as well. So are you opening your own studio here? Are you working out of a?
It's already opened. It's a private studio. It's very much like a private spa instead of a street shop like I've had before. So it's appointment only and that kind of thing. Much more personal service. Yeah.
Just you, or do you have other artists?
I have one other artist. Her name is Pinky Ray, and she does a more fanciful kind of fantasy style, and I tend to do a more painterly and artful kind of style. It's a good combination.
What was your background before tattooing and art?
I was a graphic designer, commercial illustrator.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So a formal art education?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Formal being particularly in painting, studied with master in Florence, the Academy of Florence. And so I bring a lot of that into my tattooing.
Amazing.
Yeah. Do you still work in other mediums? Do you still paint?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I've had some shows at Los Angeles County Museum of Art and so all around. So, yeah. I still exercise a lot of other art forms.
Do you find that you're able to find a happy medium between the two, or does your painting bring a lot to your tattooing, do you think?
Painting brings a lot to my tattooing. Things that people don't think about, like composition, color theory, harmony, all that kind of stuff. When you have a good foundation in classics, it just spills over into your tattooing.
Right.
Did you have a formal apprenticeship as well, or was it?
Didn't have a formal apprenticeship. I don't suggest it, but when I started tattooing, let's just say things were different, so I had to teach myself.
Yeah, we were both kind of the same
under the
way.
same boat.
Yeah.
So you mentioned in color theory and in composition and things like that, you'll bring some from your painting. Have you, as far as color mixing, things like that, I found that I was a tattooer before I was a painter. I paint a lot more than I tattoo now, and I found that I've really the more I'm not an accomplished painter, but the more accomplished I become as a painter, the more I find that I limit my tattoo palette and work with a very kind of limited range, and I'm able to get a little more harmony, I think, like color harmony that way. Do you find that?
I agree 100%. One thing you'll notice in a novice tattooer, they want to go out and buy every color in the world. They've got 80 shades of green, 20 shades of pink. But when you limit that palette, it definitely brings more harmony, and you realize you really don't need all of that. I think it's that way probably with a lot of arts or anything. You go out and buy the big kit of whatever, and then you realize, man, let me hone it down to those essentials that really get the job done and are really reliable.
And we find too is a lot of people, they'll buy these colors, but they don't know how to mix those colors either. It's like, if you've run out or you're trying to mixing something between that, they're not capable of doing it.
Yeah.
You know? Just because they have that preset color, they're very, very much, I've got to have that off the shelf, or I won't even make another color like that.
Yeah, that can get you in some trouble.
A lot of trouble, I think, too.
Yeah. And understanding just subtleties in either value or temperature, and you're kind of close in a mixture. If you had to go and wow, that's pretty close, but I think it's a little bluer than that. If you had to go and find that tone that's a little bit bluer in your 200 set of ink, you'd never find it. But
never
if you knew that I needed a little bit cooler and a little bit lighter in value, so I need to go to this.
Exactly.
And that's, I think, what painting brings as
it
brought
does
to my tattooing.
And it's essential in touching up. Let's say a little color doesn't take, and the guy comes back, months later, and you've got to match that color, and maybe you've thrown out that color that was used. So you really got to know those bare essentials.
What do you find probably what's the hardest thing you struggle with in a modern day tattooing? Was it your line work, your shading, your customers, do you have something to complain about?
Well, not complain. Let's just say it's a bit more of a challenge. Customers. The advent of all the tattoo reality shows have done good, and I won't say bad, but created some challenges. People tend to see a show, and then they kind of put themselves in the authority seat. So they come in, and they kind of want to run the show. Now, of course, we're a service industry, so we're not just going to tattoo whatever we want on you, but sometimes, let's just say you have to bring it to a place where you just say, you're going to have to let me do my job, So that can be a challenge.
Yeah. And it's probably easier with 25 years under your belt and an established name and portfolio, but I think that's a real struggle for younger tattooers that maybe even still lack a little bit of confidence, and you have these customers that come in that really do want to micromanage the entire process with no foundation whatsoever.
That can be intimidating.
So any tricks for handling that? Are you just straightforward, honest?
I'm trying to, straightforward with, you got to put the kid gloves on a little bit, because most people can't take too hard of a hit.
Right.
But I try to explain to them, listen, I have your best interest in mind. I want this to be something that I would be proud to put in my portfolio, and if we do it this way you're suggesting, it's just not going to be the best. It will be, but it won't be the best, and I want you to have the best. And if you can get a client to realize that you genuinely have their best interest involved.
Especially if they've come to you for that advice or that work.
Exactly. And just follow through with that, and just be genuine, they'll usually come around.
Yeah. I've noticed the same thing. If you can put it into some kind of easy to understand terms about, maybe why that won't work. We talk about clients coming in, David calls them cornucopia tattooing. They want everything under the sun, any idea they've ever had, they want to work into one tattoo.
Yeah.
And it's just, if you can just find an eloquent way to say, like, look, I could do that. I really could. In 5 years, no one's going to know what that tattoo is.
Exactly.
But if we can establish a hierarchy here, and you can say what's the most important element that you're looking for, then we'll have something to work off of. So I think you're exactly right. And how you bring it up. What about coming up, being self-taught? Compare that to the new kids that you see coming out now that are 2 or 3 or 4 years in that are just doing fantastic work. What do you think has been the biggest transition from someone that came up in 25 years ago to someone that came up 5 years ago?
Well, I think a big difference, when I came up early on, there was all these closed mouth secrets going on, and that is never good for any industry or any learning situation. So there was always that battle going on, and as today, I think these kids really want to share ideas with each other. They want to know, what needles are you using, or how are you packing, and they're very open about it, and they also have more of an open mind. I mean, back in the day, if you would have shown some pictures and said, can you do this? Closed-minded guys back then was like, you can't do that. This is the only way they're tattooing. These guys, they're taking chances, and they have no fear. And you can see it in their work. This stuff is like, holy Moses. So I think it's just probably like most young generations, they're willing to take chances that the older generations were not.
We, the girl that we were just podcasting with before, Alexis, I'm drawing a blank on her last name, but Alexis Cheetah, she mentioned coming up under a mentor that was had a very old school mindset, and was like, look, I don't want you looking at other people's work, because I can't tell you their process, I can tell you mine. So if you're going to study under me, you're going to follow exactly what I do so that I can guide you. And she's like, it was a disaster because he wasn't any good, for one thing. But I didn't know that because I wasn't allowed to look at what anyone else was doing. Well, now it's impossible for that to even happen because of social media.
Exactly.
There's no way not to be influenced by 1,000 other artists. So that's probably had a lot to do with it. But
Have you taken on any apprentices before?
I've taken on very few because, as you know, it takes a lot of time.
It does.
So it slows down my work. So I really have to really put someone through the ringer, not in what you would expect, not fetching donuts and coffee. I think that's just silly. But I've really got to find out how serious this person is about the craft, and if it's worth putting in that kind of time. And there's only been maybe 3 in my whole 25-year career.
What did you find apprenticing a handful of people? Are there any? What are the most common struggles? Are they technical, or are they
personality?
I think personality is a big one because, as we all know, frustration. You can be Michelangelo on the canvas, and when the first time you pick up a tattoo machine, you're going to look like your 2-year-old sister. And that freaks people out. They're like, oh my God, I can't produce art. And I've been producing art for however long. And there's that ego blow that happens, and trying to strip them down to where they really need to listen to everything you say and not rely too much on what they think they know. So that can be a little bit of a challenge.
And that's easy. I mean, completely understandable. I know moving from tattooing into painting more and traveling, doing a lot of painting workshops. When I walk in and I'm going to study for a week with a really great figure painter, the first thing I want to do is prove that I know how to draw. You know what I mean? It's just like you can't not. You go in, you say, all right, I want to learn. I just want to gather all that I can. As soon as they set a model up, you're like, oh, I can't screw this up. They need to know that I can draw.
All right.
So you understand. I understand that
constant
transition,
pressure,
and especially nowadays. Back 20 plus years ago, you didn't have a lot of people coming from formal art educations into tattooing.
No.
And now you have so many people that are pretty accomplished before they even start tattooing.
And that's a big help. And especially what you said about drawing. We say in the painting word, you've probably heard, painting is 90% drawing and 10% painting. Same with tattooing, if you ask me. I can teach a monkey how to tattoo.
I've said it a million times.
Right?
Exactly. But I can't teach them how to draw.
I can't teach how to draw.
So
just can't.
Exactly. And I've often thought too. It's like we haven't mentioned it, but untraining bad habits. Someone that thinks they know what they're doing, and they constantly go back to that as a source of information instead of just abandoning it and then taking good advice. You know, it's hard to teach people get them out of bad habits. That's what I've found over the years.
That's very frustrating. That's a hard one.
And people will approach us or send us emails saying, hey, I've been tattooing a little bit out of my house. I'm trying to get an apprenticeship. Do you have any suggestions? And the first thing that I always say is quit. First off, quit tattooing out of your house. And don't tell the person that you're trying to get the apprenticeship from that you've already been tattooing because they know that you're not doing it right. They're gonna you're going to have to unlearn.
They don't want to inherit your bad habits already.
Exactly.
Right. I just had another point to make on that, and I completely lost it. But what about it as far as your work personally? Where do you see it?
Where's it going?
Where's it going? Are you happy with where it is now? Do you constantly, with the new kind of influx of talent that you see, do you find yourself pushing boundaries in your own work, or?
Actually, I'm pretty happy with where I am, but not complacent. I mean, I like what I do. People come to me for a certain style. And I'll be the first to admit, I've seen some of these young kids do some stuff that is beyond my comprehension. My ego isn't so big that I'm going to sit here and say, I know how to tattoo every single style and everything out there. So I let the young Turks take over. And hey, if you're doing that kind of thing, man, rock that. And I'll send somebody to you. But if you want Zulu stuff, I'll make sure you're taken care of.
Right.
Now, I push myself a little bit, to try to, stay fresh and try to learn. Even as a 25-year veteran, I can still learn. But I'm pretty happy with where I am and what I do right now, I'd have to say.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I know you're just making the move to Austin, but any real noticeable difference in the tattoo culture from LA to Austin?
Big
difference?
Actually huge. It's night and day.
Huh, how so?
I think due to the fact that Los Angeles is so industry heavy. Everybody wants to be an actor, a musician, all kinds of stuff, which is great because a lot of that comes out of there. I can't complain. That's where I started. But with that, there comes a lot of that micromanaging that, I work on such and such show and I'm an art director. And so, you're dealing with a lot of heavy egos.
Yeah.
And that can be rough. I'm not saying everybody, it's just the percentage is higher there due to the industry being there. As opposed to here, there's more just normal people. A guy is a baker, he's a butcher, he's a candlestick maker. Right. Everyone you meet isn't in the industry.
Right.
So they're willing to trust you as an artist. They're like, dude, I pump gas. I came here to get a tattoo. You do your art.
Excellent.
Right. Now, if you want me to pump your gas, I can do that, but don't tell me how to do it.
Right. That's probably something to do with artists in general. They always have really big egos, so it's hard to break through any of that, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like we've often talked just with sometimes even starting out, trying to teach an apprentice one thing or another. They just are so ego-driven sometimes they won't ask questions. Like, you don't know everything. Just ask questions and you'll learn a lot more.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that goes back to exactly what you said your biggest issue is that issue with clientele.
Clientele,
It is. It's my biggest issue.
And so you're hoping that coming here will help to alleviate some of that?
Yeah. I mean, I love them. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they come. I'm very flattered that someone would come to me and say, I want you to put something on my body the rest of my life.
Right.
But it has to be a good fit.
Yeah.
And I have no problem sometimes saying, you know what, this might not be a good fit. And not telling them they're a jerk or anything. Sometimes it's just not a good fit. Just like any relationship, friends, lovers, sometimes it doesn't work. And I'm not offended if it doesn't work out. And I try to make sure that the potential client that did not fit doesn't walk away feeling hurt.
Yeah.
And for the sake of the industry, I will not just leave them hanging. I will give them a suggestion. Listen, this isn't working with us, but I know a guy down the road, and man, the style you're asking for is right up his alley. You really should look him up and actually tell him that Zulu sent you.
Perfect.
I think if more of that goes on, it takes away all the threat and all the negative, and let people know that there's a tattoo community, and as a whole, we have the client's best interest in mind.
Right. Yeah. If you can pull it off that way, because that is a tricky thing to not offend someone when you tell them it's not a good fit.
Because all they hear is, he doesn't like my idea, and he doesn't like me. It's like, no, that's not it.
Well, I think that's your best way too, though. It's like often when you have to say no, it's like, but there's always something else that you have to make recommendations.
Don't
that
be
way
like
they
your
don't
dad,
figure you're
just say,
destroying their dreams.
Yeah. It's like when your dad said, because I said so.
Right.
That's kind of hard to take.
Exactly. Very much so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where you're still booking, you're taking new clients now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Where's the best place for people to find you for either appointments or just to look at your work?
All they have to do is find me online, zulutattoo.com.
All right. and social media stuff.
Social media, yeah. Just type in Zulu tattoo.
Oh, you're gonna find
very many.
Yeah, exactly. We'll pop up somewhere.
Got you. Well, cool, man. Thanks for coming on.
It was a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank
Right
you so
on,
much.
guys. I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. We'll see you on the next one.